What's cooking, Robert?
I'm going to do a classic Italian dish called Osso Bucco. Also, it's going to be my take on it, so if there's anybody out there that this isn't correct, I'm really sorry if I offend you. I'm going to do a vegan version. It's normally made with veal, but that's cruel. And meat is murder, so I'm going to do a vegan version using vegan beef alternative.
What do you need for that then?
Well, I will need vegan beef Shin alternative, 1 large or 3 small carrots, 1 onion, 2 sticks of celery, 4 cloves of garlic, dried porcini mushrooms, a small Italian amount of olive oil, an ounce of butter, a tin of chopped tomatoes or passata, and a tablespoon of flour. And these need to be finely chopped, with the exception of the mushrooms. So, well, once that's done, your veggies are prepared. You need to prepare your mushrooms, so boil the kettle of water. So these are dried porcinis. Porcini, I believe, is Italian for little pigs. So there you go, there's a vegan alternative to pork as well. So I'm not going to put too much in because they smell very strong, like Bigfoot's dick.
How would you know what that smells like? You like the smell of Bigfoot's dick?
Might do. I'm going to cover them with a pint of boiling water. Just make sure they get submerged. Don't use your hands if you can't. So, and we'll just put them to one side. Now, dried mushrooms quite often get grit in them, so you let the grit fall to the bottom. Next thing we need to prepare is our vegan shin of beef. So to prepare your vegan beef, you need to put a couple of tablespoons of flour. I'm using buckwheat flour because Kate's got special needs. Salt and pepper in there. Give it a stir. Make sure your beef is dry. Your vegan beef is dry, and you want to give it a good coating on your flour.
Where did you get the vegan beef?
There's a vegan butcher up the top of the hill. It's brilliant. You genuinely, I mean, it even smells like beef. It's got like a vegan bone in it and vegan marrow. I think they're specially bred vegan cows. I think they just eat grass. They don't drink milk or eat eggs or anything like that. And they don't get slaughtered actually. What they do is they get a vegan to drone on about the benefits of a vegan diet and how good it is for the planet, and they actually just kill themselves. So, as I'm told, is my favourite saying. So, that's how behind the camera says. You want to put in a good glug of olive oil into a hot-ish pan, and you want, just for a bit of colour and flavour, an ounce of butter. I'll put the slow cooker on as well. So once that's melted, I'll put in my vegan beef. Right, so add your beef into this foaming pan.
Your vegan beef, you mean?
Vegan beef, of course.
Don't want to confuse the viewers.
No, of course not. And get them in the pan, and you want to just sear them on all sides. You're not searing it like you would sear a steak. Just want to give them a nice colour on all sides. Get rid of this bit of paper, put a fresh bit on. The plate a wipe first, because you're going to take the beef out and you're going to sort of saute your vegetables in the same pan. Right, so once your beef has been cooked on both sides, the vegan beef, for those of you out there that are in the minority and still are corpse crunchers, you could use real beef if you wanted. So if you want to remove that, maybe get rid of a little bit of the fat, and just get your vegetables straight in there. Salt and pepper on them, give them a good sweat, and then you could add red or white wine, but we're not going to. I'm going to blitz a can of tomatoes and put in the stock from the mushrooms, and then we're going to get them in the slow cooker. So, keeping an eye on your vegetables. You want to remove the mushrooms from the liquor. It should be about hand hot by then. Squeeze the excess moisture out just so your chalkboard doesn't get wet. And you want to cut them up. You could cut them finer if you want. I've never had porcini mushrooms before, so I'm going to leave them in larger chunks. Add them into there. And because I require the measuring jug again, I'm going to pour the mushroom liquor into that bowl. I need to show you this because of what I said earlier on about the element of grit. So, this is maybe not too bad yet. You can kind of see some bits of grit floating about in the bottom. If you come in closer. So, I dare say if you were really could be arsed, you could probably use a coffee filter, or this is the easiest way of doing it. Just pour it out and you can just leave any bits of grit. Discard them. So you want a relatively thick enriched sauce, so not to waste this flour. I'm not going to use it all, but I'm going to put in 2 dessert spoons of it. I've got other use for that later on. And I'm going to stir this in. This will absorb some of the fat that you already had in, and it will act as a thickener. So again, I'm on a medium to high heat. This is a non-stick pan. If you've got a regular pan, you might want to just keep more an eye on it. But I'm going to liquidize the can of tomatoes. I'm pretty sure you all know how to liquidize a can of tomatoes. Right, so once you've made sure that the flour has cooked out and you've blitzed your tomatoes, you want to use all of your mushroom liquor, and you want to give that a good stir in and let it reduce. If you're using regular flour, you might want to put it in batches like you would in a roux. But this is buckwheat, so it's not quite as bad. So yeah, you just want to reduce this down and then add your tomatoes. Right, so that's thickened ever so slightly. It's handy, so that's your buckwheat flour will have cooked out. as we call it in the industry. So in here, it looks like I've got more than one can of tomatoes. So one can of tomatoes, and then fill the can up with boiling water to swill it out, and you want to blitz all that. And then we'll just add this to the pan. Again, you could let it reduce, but it's going in the slow cooker. But what I would do at this point is definitely check the seasoning. It's fine if it's undersalted, because it's going to intensify. You might want to add sugar if you think it's too bitter for yourself. Similarly, if you don't want to add the tomatoes, just add more stock and a little bit more flour.
What about herbs?
Herbs, you could put in an Italian season, I suppose. I've put in a little bit of dried thyme, because I put that in bloody everything and try to use it up. Add maybe a couple of bay leaves, but you don't really need it. So, just going to give this a quick taste. I'm putting a wee splash of balsamic vinegar just to sharpen it and give it a wee lift. About a tablespoon. It's all down to your taste. So cook this for 5 minutes. We'll just check it a little bit more. I'm going to then put the beef in the slow cooker and pour this over the top. You put it on high and you leave it for 4 to 6 hours. Sauce is fine. So when you put the beef into the slow cooker, you want to make sure that it's touching the bottom. And then literally just pour your sauce over. Ladle it in evenly over your beef. And it's as simple as that.
Where did you get the chini mushrooms?
Oh, got them from Pasta Plus in Rosemount, just round the corner from us. It's a little Italian deli and wee restaurant, and I must admit, food is absolutely fantastic. So if you want any Italian supplies in Aberdeen, that's the place I would go. Shameless plug there for Mr. Chris Sculia. Okay, so get that in there. It's far too much sauce, but that's good. I can use that sauce for something else. With pasta, perhaps. So there we go. That goes on 4 to 6 hours. You want to just check that the meat is falling apart. And we're going to serve it with some polenta. Hello!
Oh.
Okay, so I have had this lovely pieces of vegan alternative beef in the slow cooker. They've actually been in for 8 hours. So for the first 2 hours I had them in high, and the next 6 hours I put them down onto low. Hoping that I get a more sort of gelatinous texture. Now, if you look in here, you'll see, because obviously the lid it won't have reduced, but that's fine. But you'll see that there's a fatty layer on the top. That's just simply all the fat coming out of the beef and the olive oil and the butter. So you want to just grab a bowl and get your ladle and just kind of skim the fat off the top. Right, I've skimmed a lot of the fat off the top. Gonna need another pan to reduce the sauce. So I want to delicately lift this beef out. If it falls apart, it's not the end of the world, which it looks like it's going to do. Excellent. So yeah, you want to get your beef out onto plates. And I'm not going to let you see me make a cup of it. So if you're not as skilled as me, you might want to get the assistance of someone else. To take your vegan beef out of your slow cooker. So just put it on a plate, bit of foil over it, and leave it somewhere warm. You can put it in a low oven if you want. I'm not going to do that because I've got the oven on for something else. You then want to get your sauce into another pan to reduce. Heat it up. You want to make a cartouche, which if you watch other videos, so you get a square of greaseproof paper, you fold it in half, find the centre point, fold it in half again, keep your finger on the centre point, fold it in half, fold it in half, fold it in half, pair of scissors, give it a scrumple up, and that is a cartouche, and it just means that I can boil this sauce without it splattering everywhere. Or if you've got one of those splatter guns, you can do that. So I'm going to get myself organised, get the sauce in the pan, get the hob on, and come back.
What are you doing?
Chopping garlic because we're going to have some polenta with this Osso Bucco. So
What's polenta? For people that don't know.
it's milled corn. It's what cornflakes, Doritos, nachos, corn tortillas are made of. It's gluten free, it's vegan, so it's ideal with this dish. So I've got a pan on a medium heat, and I'm going to put in about 75 grams of butter, just to sweat the garlic. Bit of salt, a bit of pepper, good bit of pepper. In fact, I'm going to use wanky salt to put in this. Half a fancy Malden sea salt. So it's because I'm running low on rock salt. So I must need to get more from the shop. As you can see, the sauce is reducing. It doesn't need reduced much because you added that little bit of flour or buckwheat flour at the start. So as your butter melts, swirl it around the pan, and then when that melts, I've got 2 pints of water in here steeping the rest of these porcini mushrooms just because I want to put them through. So again, once it's at kind of hand temperature, give them a squeeze and maybe give them a little fry before adding the liquor. So porcini mushrooms go in the pan. Just allow them to mix in a little bit, and then you want to add your stock. So again, as before, now normally you'd only need about half of this. I'm going to make another dish for this, so careful so that any grit that's at the bottom stays there. Just discard the rest. So you want to bring this to the boil, check it for seasoning, and then add your polenta. So my water has come to the boil. I have tasted it for seasoning, and I needed more salt. Now it doesn't. So you can either use a whisk or a wooden spoon. If you've got nothing in it, you can use a whisk. I'm going to use a wooden spoon. So this is your polenta. It's really finely milled corn. It doesn't look like a lot, but trust me, and you want to stir this constantly when you add it, and you want to add it very carefully. It's a bit like making porridge. Okay, so my sauce has reduced. put it down to 1. Don't know why, because, oh yeah, because it was spitting. I'm going to add some baby spinach to both of these just because we want to use it up. It's not a classic thing to do at all. So this is the thickness of the polenta. I have added some Bloody Mary mix kind of stuff into it, but it's just to give it a taste. But it's got a nice oniony, mushroomy umami to it. So spinach and nutmeg go very well. So I'm going to grate in half a nutmeg. But I'm going to take half of this spinach and put it into the sauce. Just going to tear it up a bit. Even going to put some on the floor, you know. And hob. Just let it wilt in your ragu. It is almost a ragu, I suppose. It will be. Stir the nutmeg into the polenta, and then bunch these together. It's almost like making a cigar. I'll just chop it very finely, keeping the point of your blade on the board. Just moving it back and forth. Put that in there. And I'll explain the next step. Like I said, I've made extra polenta for another dish, so I have got a small brownie tin, lined it with a bit of oil. This just makes a cling film stick, and I've got 2 layers of cling film and put them in as such. So I'm going to use half of this because I'm not going to eat all that polenta. I'm going to just spread it like that over there. I'm going to cover it with a bit more cling film and put it in the fridge. And then what you can do with that is cut it into squares, fry it, a little bit of butter, very nice. So plate up, have your warm balls out of the oven. Put some polenta, this doesn't have to be pretty, in your bowl. Certainly isn't pretty, that's for sure. A bit like myself, I can hear you, Zah. Alright, we get our Shin, or Skink as we call it in Scotland, of vegan beef. And just going to remove the bone. Now we're not going to all have one each. That's the whole point of making a bit extra sauce. There we go. Just want a little bit of sauce. As such, got the bones, the vegan bones, because there's vegan marrow in there. It's very tasty and nutritious for you. Not as nutritious as real marrow, but. And then with this beef you've got left over, you can see how tender it is. There, vegan beef. You just break it up with a spoon. La 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 la. Add that back into your sauce. And you can use this for something else another time. Perhaps like a spag bol, or I don't know, you could layer lasagna or any type of pasta you can toss this through. So there you go. Put it in the cup, split it into a couple of freezer bags. Freeze it in batches and you've got a meal for another couple of nights, you know. So really, that cheap cut of vegan beef. So the shin comes from the hind leg, obviously, along this muscle on a regular cow. I don't know about vegan cows. Imagine it must be much the same. But it's just a cross section of that. Great for soups. Absolutely beautiful. Takes a long time to cook, but it's well worth it. Happy crappy cooking.